Today we are going to speak about I need to return the call. So today we are going to speak about typology on different levels, at different levels, and we are going to start with typology of phonological systems. A little bit of revision. When we start. And we are going to start with the concept of the phonological language, phonological level of language. So, among those levels that form a complex structure of language, the phonological level should be called the first. The basic unit of this level is the phoneme. In essence, a phoneme is an abstract linguistic unit that combines all those common features inherent in real sounds, the backgrounds in which it exists or is realized. So, for example, one of these common signs may be the explosive nature of backgrounds or nasality or some other phenomenon. At the same time, the phoneme, as the basic unit of the phonological level of the language, performs two very essential functions for communicative purposes. The first one, the constitutive function, which consists in the fact that phoneme are the necessary building material for units of the morphological and other levels. So without phoneme, no morpheme, no word can exist. And the second function is a distinctive one, or differentiative, which make it possible to distinguish some morphemes from others, some words from others, which is also essential for the purpose of communication. Thus, a phoneme can be defined as a class of physically similar and functionally identical sounds. From this definition of a phoneme, it is clear that the phoneme may sound differently under different conditions. For example, let's compare the Russian phoneme A. In the pressed stressed position, sounds like short A. In words like окно, один, and so on. And the English phoneme T before the consonant loses its aspiration. Such sounds, which are varieties of one and the same class of physically similar sounds, are called allophones or variants of a given phoneme. So I know that you have studied all this material from the course of theory of phonetics. This will be just a short revision. So phonemes in morphemes and words are combined into syllables, which can be viewed as a natural unit of speech stream segmentation. Along with phonemes and their variants, which are called segmental units, according to their ability to be used in separate segments of the speech chain, the phonological level includes oversegment, suprasegmental units, which are usually understood as stress and intonation. So, we're going to speak about selection of indicators to establish a typology of phonological systems between, for example, any two given languages. So, considering the phonological system of individual languages, we can easily make sure that some quantitative functions in the... Someone is still coming. Just a moment. I can't ignore because we can be checked at any moment. So that quantitative functions of the phonemic composition, they are large enough. So in some cases, the number of consonant phonemes is extremely limited. For example, in Samoan language, it has only 9 consonant phonemes. In other languages, the number of consonants reaches 60 or even more, as for example in the Abkhaz language. The number of vowels can also significant. For example, Swedish has 17 simple vowels, while Italian has only 7. In some languages, the consonant system is dominant, characterized by a variety of consonant phonemes and relatively small number of vowel phonemes. Such languages are called consonant languages or languages of the consonant type. In other languages, there is a fairly diverse system of vowel phoneme, for example, with a limited number of consonants. Such languages on language composition of phonemes are called vocal languages, or languages of the vocal type. The division into languages of such type can be considered as one of the main criteria for the typological characteristics of languages at the phonological level. So, as Isachenko, who studied the typology of Slavic languages, includes Russian, he wrote that Russian has 35 consonant phonemes. Please don't miss them with letters. And Polish, for example, has also 35 consonants and a number of others. So, among the vocal languages, Isachenko considers the Slovenian languages in which there are 21 consonant phonemes with 18 vowels, and the Serbo-Croatian language, and in the phonological system of which there are 24 consonants and 11 vowels phonemes, and so on. So the phonemic composition of individual languages differs among themselves, not only quantitatively, but also qualitatively. So in some languages, there are 2 interdental phonemes, as for example in English, modern Greek, literary Arabic language, Bashkir, and so on. In Danish, instead of 2 interdental phonemes, there is only 1 phoneme, B. In a number of languages, noisy consonants of a D back row are presented, as for example in many Turkish languages, in Arabic, and so on. So there are languages in which the vowel system is represented by a small number of vowel phonemes that do not have any correlates, as for example in Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian, Georgian, Uzbek, and so on. In contrast to these languages, a number of languages can be named where there is a long-short vowel correlation, such as Sanskrit, Arabic, and some Germanic languages. It follows from what has been said that the inventory of phonemes, vowels, consonants, their number and composition can be recognized as a general criterion for the typological characteristics of the phonological system of languages which are compared. The structure of the phonemic inventory is is important for establishing the typology of the corresponding language. One of the components of the structure should be considered the quantity and quality of oppositions and correlations. Phonological oppositions refers to the opposition of two or more phonemes in order to identify the presence or absence of any sign. Oppositions are binary when we speak about two elements, ternary or tertiary when we speak about three elements, and group, if opposed by 2, 3, and whole group of language units. In this case, for example, phonemes in Russian language, b to d pair phonemes can be compared, and this will be binary opposition. In English, the same pair phonemes f, v, s, z, and so on. Or it may be a tertiary or ternary opposition as b, d, g, or a group of front vowels as opposed to a group of back vowels, and so on. So the phonological structure of, for example, Arabic language is characterized by a binary opposition of simple and emphatic stop phonemes, which we do not find in many other languages, such as English, German, and Russian. Phonological opposition is closely related to phonological correlation. That is the presence in the corresponding phonological system of two phonemes pairwise opposed to each other according to one feature, when all other features coincide. For example, correlation in hardness and softness, b, b, voicedness and deafness, b, p, nasality, non-nasality, m, b, and so on. So the next feature we're going to speak is neutralization. So neutralization is associated with the features considered above opposition and correlation, which is characterized in phonological terms by the removal of a feature that distinguishes one phoneme from another in a binary opposition. For example, the neutralization of the phoneme d at the end of word in German is completely unacceptable and impossible in French and English. For example, red in German is a wheel, but röde are wheels. Haben to rise, but hop raised. So typological analysis of phonological systems involves the establishment of not only qualitative but also quantitative indicators, which can be achieved by determining the strengths of phonological opposition. This term was proposed or introduced by linguist Zhuravlyov, and we are going to look at the formula. So the strengths of the phonological opposition can be represented in the form of the formula F equal to N multiplied to D divided on N, where F is the strength of the phonological opposition, D is the number of discriminating position, that is strong position, N is the number of neutralization position, and small n the number of pairs that make up this opposition. So Zhuravlyov proposed to read this formula as follows. The strength of the phonological opposition is directly proportional to the number of pairs opposed in a certain number of strong positions and inversely proportional to the number of weak positions. The development of electroacoustic equipment provided researchers with the opportunity to obtain special spectrograms of sounds and sound patterns, which made it possible to measure and obtain the characteristics of individual phonons and make up the phonon structure of a particular language. Using electroacoustic research methods, Jacobson, Fent, and Hale developed a system of binary distinguishing features of individual phonemes, which by their generalized nature can serve as typological indicators of phonological systems. There are two classes of signs. Signs of sonority based on differences in the amount and concentration of energy in the spectrum and in time, and signs of tone based on different characteristics of the edges of the frequency spectrum. In the group of signs of sonority, the following pairs of signs are distinguished according to the principles of opposition. So we're going to give a great enumeration. So signs of sonority. We have 9 groups. First group, vowels are unspoken. Second, consonants, dissenting one. Third, compact and diffused, characterized acoustically by a greater concentration of energy in a narrow central region of the spectrum, which is accompanied by an increase in the total amount of energy in its temporal extent. In terms of articulation, compactness corresponds to anterior articulation and diffuseness corresponds to posterior articulation. The fourth group stands for unstressed, stressed and unstressed, which is characterized by the presence of sufficiently distinct resonance regions in the spectrum and an increase and respectively decrease in the total amount of energy and its length in time. So tense phonemes are also called strong or fortist, while non-tense ones are called weak or lazy. Or linis. Yes, fortist, linis, the standard opposition. So voiced and deaf or voiceless, which is due to the presence and absence of harmonic vibrations at low frequencies. Nasals and tonic, so characterized by the fact that the available energy spreads to a wider frequently band and nasal phonemes appear, as a result of which a nasal resonator is attached to the oral cavity. So discontinuous and continuous, a sign due to the acoustical lack of sounds, which is associated with the rapid spread of energy over a wide frequency band and by sudden switching off or switching on the sound source. Sharp and sharp. So that is due to the acoustically higher noise intensity. Glottalized, non-glottalized, characterized by a higher or lower rate of energy expenditure in a given period of time, which is articulatorily expressed in the presence of closure of the glottis. In the group of tone features, the following features are distinguished. We have 3 of them. So low-high, that is a concentration of energy in the lower and respectively higher frequencies of the spectrum. So peripheral phonemes with a larger size and less dissection of the resonator, alveolar, and labial phonemes, and central phonemes with a smaller resonator size like palatal and dental phonemes are distinguished by articulation. So the second is flat simple. Flat phonemes have some downward shift in comparison with simple ones and weakening of some of the upper frequency components. In articulation, it's okay, we are ready for this. So, in articulation, flat phonemes are characterized by velarization, that is the additional rise of the back of the tongue towards the soft palate, which gives the consonants the so-called hardness. Sharp and simple. Sharp phonemes have some upward shift in comparison with simple phonemes and an increase in some of the upper frequency components. In articulatory terms, sharp phonemes are characterized by palatalization, that is an additional rise of the middle part of the tongue to the hard palate. The above 12 distinctions or differential features are not found in full in any of the known language. As the author note, the compatibility or incompatibility of these features in the same language or in separate phonemes is largely determined by the laws of implication or prediction, which are universal in nature and allow for the stratification of phonological systems and reduce their diversity to a limited set of structural types. From the above, it follows that the differential feature of phonemes should be taken into account as a criterion for the typological characteristics of phonological systems. So, for example, the differential features of the phoneme T in Russian can be formulated as follows. It is consonant, dental, occlusive, non-nasal, noisy, voiceless, non-palatal. Differential signs of phoneme T in English are summed up as follows. Consonant, velar, occlusive, non-nasal, noisy, deaf or voiceless with aspiration, and non-palatal. So comparison of different features of these two phonemes, Russian T and English T, clearly shows the acoustic and articulatory difference. The Russian phoneme T has the sign of dentality, the English phoneme T, alveolarity and strong aspiration. So, for the typological characteristics of phonological systems, phonemic distribution and the frequency of use of a certain class of phonemes in comparison with other classes of phonemes are important, which determines their place and share in the phonological system of the corresponding language. So, for example, in many Turkish languages, the consonant U and R, which are the part of the plural affixes lar, ler, are widespread. In other languages, such as English, Greek, Spanish, Arabic, interdental phonemes, such as F and V, are common, which are absent in other languages. Finally, the complex of features that are part of the criteria for determining the typology of languages at the phonological level should include those functions that are performed by certain classes of background in the structure of the language. So, in Semitic languages, the main lexical meaning of the word is carried by consonants, while vowel perform a distinct grammatical function. For example, plural, the root F and JN in the form of finjan is a cup. In singular, phonogen cups in plural. The root FRRS in the form faras means a horse in singular. In the form afras, a horse means plural. Collateral fataha, he opened. Futiha, he was opened, as in voiceover voice. In the Turkish languages, vowel phonemes not only do not carry any grammatical function, but on the contrary, serve as an excellent means of distinguishing meaning. For example, Turkish göl, lake, gül, flower, gel, come. So the material considered allows us to formulate the following indicators as phonologically determining. That is, the quantity and quality of the inventory of phonemes, the quantity and quality of oppositions and correlations. So the third case is of phoneme neutralization. The fourth, the strength of the opposition. The fifth, distribution of phonemes and their frequency. And the sixth, functions of a phoneme in the word. All these indicators will make it possible to draw a conclusion about the typological nature of the language in terms of its phonological organization. This confirms the opinion of Tarsuev, who believes that for determining the typology of phonological system, the most important is the system of phonemes, including differential features and the ratio of subsystems such as vowels, consonants, and so on. The frequency characteristics of phonemes and their functional load. So that is the end of our first lecture. We So we are going to meet once again in 20 minutes. Don't be late.